Calvin Dark is a global affairs analyst and the principal and co-founder of RC Communications, a branding and crisis communications firm. Calvin, thank you so much for joining us this weekend. So the common response from former President Trump has been any investigation into him, his administration, or his businesses is all a, quote, witch hunt. He's now also calling it political persecution. How effective or ineffective do you see that message is going forward and as more comes out on this indictment and potentially further indictments?
Well, I think that in the long run, it's not going to help former President Trump because Americans are smart enough to know that everything can't be a witch hunt. Now, there are many in the Republican Party particularly who believe that this is more persecution instead of prosecution. But what I think is going to happen is when we finally see what the charges are and possibly what evidence there is to back up those charges this week, Americans will look at from both parties, and people with no party will look at this and really see if they believe that this is something that Donald Trump should be tried for or not, if he's guilty or not. So I think that the labeling everything a witch hunt actually takes away from any credibility former President Trump may have with his supporters.
And how do you see this playing out not just within the Republican Party, but among moderates, independents, and swing voters? Because Donald Trump is not just the former president, he's running for president again as we speak.
Well, I think that many Americans, just not because it's Donald Trump or anyone else, just having a former president arraigned in court, this is not a good look for our country. And so I think that a lot of Americans are feeling that. And I think that as we look towards 2024, Americans of all political persuasions, independents as well, are going to be thinking about what does it mean to have potentially a nominee from a major party that has so much baggage, that has so much they're bringing to the race that doesn't really have to do with policies that affect people's lives. And I think at the end of the day, that's what most Americans are going to be thinking about when they consider who they're going to vote for in 2024.
And given Trump's calls for his supporters to protest, do you have concerns for the arraignment Tuesday and the days to follow?
Well, I think that the calls to protest from former President Trump that have been echoed by some of his supporters, leading Republicans in the House in particular, are dangerous, and particularly in the light of what happened on January the 6th, they should not be encouraged. But I also believe that this is different than January the 6th, whereas those who were supporting former President Trump then were doing so in the belief that they were told the election was stolen and they were trying to right a wrong they perceived. This is former President Trump's own personal legal battle, and I don't think there's that motivation behind them. However, I do applaud the law enforcement agencies, particularly in New York, but also in Washington, D.C., who are preparing for everything. Preparing because we did learn on January the 6th. So I don't think they're going to be mass protests. I don't think and hope there won't be violence, but I'm glad that our cities are prepared in case of whatever happens.
And you kind of mentioned this a moment ago, but I wanted to broaden this moment in U.S. history beyond just America, because while it's unprecedented for us here, it's something the rest of the world is also seeing unfold for the very first time, a U.S. president indicted. We talk about the global significance of this.
Well, I believe that there is the possibility, if we react right, and by we, I mean all Americans, from our leading policymakers to just normal people on the street, well, if the world sees that no one is above the law in this country and that a fair trial can be had, and then a fair verdict can be had, and that during that process, Americans have faith in our system, that, you know, we don't declare the rule of law dead, that we don't stop everything we're doing, but we continue. If the world sees that process carry through, it will help our reputation in the world and hopefully inspire others. But I think a lot of that depends on how we react in the coming days and months.
Well, still a lot to come. That arraignment set for Tuesday, but then it probably will be a months, maybe even years-long legal battle ahead. So a lot to follow in the coming days. Calvin Dark with RC Communications, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.